Thank you for trying TechSmith's Camtasia Relay.
All right. Morning. Most of you know me. I'm Tobias. I'm an instructional designer here, and today we're going to talk about assessments in BlueLine. As a point of information, I'm recording this right now. Hopefully the microphone is picking up my voice, and this little flashing mouse cursor won't stop. Unfortunately, it's a side effect of the recording process, but I just figured I'd let you know. So this will be annoying us for the hour. I have created a course in BlueLine, and I believe all of you are enrolled. And it is called BlueLine Assessment. Before you jump in, understand that on these computers, they have IE6 and Firefox installed. Internet Explorer 6 is not supported by BlueLine. You need to have either Internet Explorer 7 or 8, and it has not been installed on these machines. So you will need to log into BlueLine using Firefox. Firefox looks, well, it's up in this corner here, but it's a fox around a globe. And it's just another internet browser. So go ahead and do that. Let's see. And I'm going to turn off the light so you guys can see the projector a little bit better. So don't fall asleep. And if you know how to get to BlueLine, and I'm imagining if you're in this course, you know how to navigate there.
Okay, well, I'm already in trouble, Tobias.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yep, you're in Explorer. You need to close out of Explorer. So go ahead and click OK.
Okay, then.
Oh, it's doing it again. Do it again. There you go.
So, where is up there?
Oh, you're okay.
Do you want us to click into the course?
Yeah, go ahead and jump in the course. It's called BlueLine Assessment. Hopefully all of you are enrolled.
So I go to my blue line?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And once you're all in the course, go ahead and go under the Lessons tab. And I'm going to do something real quick. And under the Lessons tab, there should be a folder called Course Exams. And inside of that folder are two different assessments that I built. If you could, take them. Take the first one first and then the second one second. And hopefully you all do well.
How would you test?
And if we don't do well, what happens?
Well, then, you know, I have to inform the dean.
Oh, gosh.
I'm gonna go through it here as well, so I'll see if I can remember the questions that I asked and what the answers are.
So we can look up at the screen and...
Yes, you could cheat by watching me. And
Well, I'm
then
going to cheat on number 3, but well, maybe I'm just going to take a chance. I know that's close.
come on, so you know at least one of those.
Not this way.
Now what I want you to notice after you finish the first one and you step into the second one is that they're the same questions, but things are going to be different.
Well, the way that's course I didn't know anything, so.
So you guys have hit you've gotten your answers back.
I got my history right.
And I didn't read it to do better on the second one. I didn't connect when you said they were the same question. Oh, well.
I want you to look up on the screen. I'm in the second test real quick, and it's timed. You only have 2 minutes, and after the first minute I get this pop-up warning, and I have a countdown up in the corner to tell me how much time I have left. So what you want to do, is go to the second exam and take that. Did you already finish? Well, I realized that one of the answers I put in was actually wrong.
Well, I was about that. The pounding of crate is
Yes,
wrong.
it's wrong. Because I got it wrong, and I'm like, I can't get that wrong. And I looked at him like, that's wrong. I put in the wrong answer. I don't know. Maybe Rick did. Let's blame Rick.
That's not fair.
1870.
1878. That's why our zip code is
Yeah.
68178.
That's right. So I'm not going to do well because I'm not on time. This is time and time is passing and I'm messing around.
So the idea as you move through, and again, whether you get them right or not, the way I set up the second assessment is if you run out of time, it will automatically submit your exam, whether you're done or not. So if you want to, and what you'll get is this little sign, your time has expired, the assessment has automatically been submitted. The point of this little exercise is to let you know that you can have the same questions presented in more than one way. If you'll notice, all of you, and again, if you're honest and focused on your exam, the first one, you all had the same questions presented on one page, all of them in the same order, the answers in the same order. The second one, the answers came in a different order, or the questions came in a different order, and the answers were in a different order as well, right? So there are a lot of options when you go to build your assessment and how that design impacts students' interaction. The second one was also timed. I had it set to 2 minutes, and I had it set to whether they were done or not, automatically submit the exam. And that's another option. You can have it just basically give you a heads up, hey, this person went over this amount of time, or you don't even have to time it at all. The first one was not timed, all right? And the first exam is what I would term, if you just want to get something up and you don't want to be fancy, you can get something up pretty easily without going through all the options. And a lot of what you're going to see when we get into building an exam are options. And some options conflict with other options, and we'll talk about that. But I just wanted you to know so you'd see what different things are so that when we talk about, well, this does this, you will have experienced it and you understand what's going on. So I'm going to say OK, and click Continue. Now, not only will it how a student takes the exam, but what happens afterwards. The first one, I had all the information open. As soon as you finished the exam, you knew what you did, you knew what the right answer was, and what you answered. With this one, I have a limited presentation on what is right and wrong. There's no answer key. It just tells you the points, the awarded, the missed. Okay. So again, those are options, not only for displaying the content, but the feedback as well. So I'm going to jump out from my student view. I did a little preview to do this, and I'm going to go back in as an editor. At this point in time, if you'd like, you can go into your own class if you want, or you can simply watch. It's up to you, but we won't be doing anything inside of that class anymore, so don't feel obligated to sit there. So I'm going to go under my Lessons tab, and I am going to go to Add Content. Actually, I'll go inside of the course exams just to maintain consistency. I'm inside my folder. Then I'll go inside, do Add Content, and then I'm going to scroll a little bit, and I'm going to come to Assessment. When you create your assessment, you're going to see, much like other content that you create, you'll have this tab structure. This is what Rick and I recommend you do. It's a 3-step process. The first step is to name your exam using title, and then hide your exam and save it. The second step is to add questions to your exam. And then the third step is to come back to this view, the settings view, and then to set the parameters of the delivery of the exam. Now, if you wanted to, you could title it, hide it, and then set the parameters and then add the questions, but we think this way you have titled it and hid it so the students don't see it, and immediately you can start authoring and then go back later and set the parameters. We think that this sort of works out best. Once you get more comfortable creating exams in BlueLine, you can combine 1 and 3. So I'm going to title this Exam 3, for lack of a better title. And then I'm going to go under Access. And under Access, there is a little checkbox that is under View Restrictions right here. Do not allow users to view this item. All content items in BlueLine have this. If I check this box, that means my students cannot see it. All right? And to show it to them, I would have to uncheck this box. All right? So I'm gonna title it and I'm gonna hide it, and that's all I'm gonna do right now. And I'm gonna click Save. Once I click Save, I'm now in the view for adding questions. Right? So now we're actually authoring our exam. The previous view for settings is setting parameters, titling, delivery, stuff like that. This view is for actually entering questions. All right? There's 2 things here that I want to point out. First off, you can do a couple things here. The sort of bold is add question, right? And that's, if you just have a sort of a simple exam, you can just start adding questions here, click, type them in. But this also allows you to create what's called question sets. A question set is a collection of questions in a group. And that organization is up to you. If you want to have all of your multiple choice in one area, then all your short answer in another, or what have you, or maybe it is organized by topic. And then by default, there is one question set already created where you add questions. If you would like to, you could add other question sets by clicking Add Question Set. I'm not going to get into question sets. I'm simply, in this sort of little session, we're going to talk about authoring sort of in a simple standard question set view. But you can add multiple question sets if you so choose. And some of the options later on will allow you to release by question set the questions. So we can talk about that a little bit. Yes?
How do I get to that exam 3? I mean,
You need to be in your course.
oh, you need to go to the course.
Yeah, because you're a student in my course. You do not have authoring privileges. So you need to be in one of your courses.
Oh, okay, one of my courses. Thank you. And then,
So to add a question, I'm simply going to click Add Question. And once I do, I get this pop-up. And if you've been to the introductory sessions, one of the things you need to do is, allow pop-ups for BlueLine. And this is one of the reasons that if you want to, create an assessment, you need to basically turn off your pop-up blocker for BlueLine, not for the entire browser, but just for BlueLine. And in here we have the different question types we can create, right? Multiple choice, multiple select, matching, short answer, essay, true, false, ordering, fill in the blank. I'm not going to get into the offline item or algorithmic because math is not my strength. But what I'm going to do is create a simple multiple choice question. I click on multiple choice. Now, this first part here can be somewhat confusing. It says a question title. This, unless you choose to show it to your students, is for your information. It is not the question. The question text goes here, right? So if you have something, you can say what topic it is. If it's about Tartuffe or Candide or whatever, you can put, Candide, travel or what have you. The next one down, basically, how many points is this worth? You put in the point value. For this one, I'm going to leave the top part blank. I'm going to select this one, and I'm just going to put 2 points. And then I type in my question. Where is Nebraska? Right? Pretty simple. And then I type in the potential answers. By default, it gives me 5 places I can put an answer in. If I want to add more, I go add, type in the number I want. So right now, by default, it's 5. And then I click add, right? So I would add 5 more options. If I just want 1 more, I type in 1 and then click add, and it would add 1 more. If you leave any of these blank, they won't be in your assessment. So if you only want 4 potential answers, just leave 5 blank and it won't show up. So we'll put, let's see, it's in the UK, it's in China, it's in USA, it's in Canada. All right, I've typed in my options. I click correct to mark the correct answer, and I scroll down. At this point, I can click Save, and I've added this question to my assessment. There are some options here, and these are optional. You do not need to fill these in. So if you want to provide feedback to your students, you can put incorrect answer feedback, right? You could type in, don't you know where you are right now, right? The correct answer feedback is, well done, you know where you are, right? If you want to type that in. There is also an option that you can add keywords to this question. Keywords that you don't need to add are multiple choice, because the system knows it's a multiple choice question. But keywords would be something like Nebraska, or whatever topic you're using, right? If, for example, and I'll just, for my class, if this is a question about Candide, I'd do a keyword Candide, keyword, satire, keyword enlightenment. And that way, if I wanted to later, I could search for this question and pull it back out. Additionally, you can rank it by difficulty. This is obviously a very easy question. I would check that and rate it at very easy. But I have other options here. Easy, average, difficult. Again, optional.
I'm sorry, Tobias, can you change? Maybe that's an answer label. In the School of Nursing, we are organizing our questions according to Bloom's taxonomy.
Okay.
So we're aiming for application, analysis, evaluation, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But we also have some simple understanding. Any way to label these according to that?
Well, you could use the keywords. I mean, you can't, to organize that by Blue's taxonomy.
I understand. I get it. Keywords would work.
Yeah, that would be how, that's, I think, and I could talk to Rick about this, I think that would be the best way to do that.
Okay. One more question?
Yes.
Feedback. Another thing that we would probably like to do, or I would at any rate, is give students some feedback about the choice. So if the correct answer is B, let's say, and they choose A, we'd like to give them feedback about why A doesn't work. And this is particularly important in pathophysiology.
Yeah, so you want to give feedback based on response.
Right, and if we ask them, for instance, what would be the first priority, and it's B, but they chose A,
Right.
like feedback about why A wasn't it, why C wasn't, why D wasn't, instead of just going straight for the correct answer and why it was.
Right.
Any chance of that?
Let me see. Let me view.
Well, and you don't
advanced
have to take, don't take extra time with me if it isn't
Here we go.
transparent.
Right here. Enter feedback for answer options.
Okay,
So if we click that checkbox,
I see.
now each answer
Would
has
chance for
feedback.
feedback. I got it. Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks.
So that would be, to do that, to make that available, what I did was, at the top here, I clicked View Advanced Options. I scrolled down, and next to the answer choices is this Enter Feedback for Answer Options. Over here on the left side.
So what was it, the top right? That I
The top right
wasn't
is
taking notes.
View Advanced Options. Now, because this is a simple multiple choice, when we view advanced options, it gives us a percentage if we could make multiple answers correct. But since there is only one, because that's the way multiple choice is, versus, say, multiple select, you could put the percentage. So you either get it right on this one or you get it wrong. Okay. Now, at this point, by default, this question is added to my question bank because I have this little checkbox down in the corner. I'm going to uncheck it. Well, no, I'll add it. I'll click Save. So why is that interesting? Well, you, as an instructor, have a question bank. And if you create an assessment in a class from the previous semester, you can pull that assessment question and the entire assessment into your current semester. It keeps a running bank if you add them to your questions. Now, the thing that came up, and I'll mention this, is that if you pull a question from a previous semester and you edit that question, it edits the original. So be aware of that. There's an option to create a copy that doesn't. I'm not going to get into this in this session, but that is an option. All right, so now I have my one question, and I'm going to add another question. So I click Add Question again, and then this, you can see this becomes somewhat monotonous, right? But I'm going to do a little true-false here. Again, it auto-filled the points based on the previous question. If I want to, I can change that value easily, but I'll leave it at 2. Sky's blue, true or false, true. Again, we have the correct or incorrect answer feedback if we want. We can set the difficulty level, apply keywords, and then when we scroll down, instead of clicking Save, I'm going to use this Save and Create New. So with the Save and Create New, I can save this question and create a new true or false. All right. But what I'm going to do is save and create a new essay question. It saves it and kicks me immediately back into the authoring view. All right. So again, it grabs the point value. I have the question text. Answer length for essay is the number of lines. Okay. So I say I want this to be 5 lines long, or 4 lines, or what have you. Right. And then correct answer, because this is an essay, the system can't correct it. What this is, if you have somebody, correcting your questions, right? This you can fill in. This is the standard answer, right? That you can compare their answer to if you want. You have, again, feedback, the keywords, and difficulty. So let's type something in. Explain why red is better than blue. Okay, I put in an answer length. I'm going to make it 5 lines long. And then I'm going to click Save. So now I have 3 questions thrown into my assessment. If I want to see what it looks like, I can click Preview, which is next to Add Question Set, right here. Again, another pop-up, and it shows me this is what my test looks like right now. It's very bare bones, right? It's the standard, everything's on one page, there's not a lot going on, and here's the 5 lines. If I was to do 8 lines, it'd be further down. What's interesting about the essay, you cannot prevent students from writing copiously, right? Some people have asked that. But what you could do is with this area, give them an idea of how long you want it to be. So for example, in my first quiz that I gave my students, they had a set of definitions they had to provide. Well, I only made it like 2 lines. So for them to understand that it's not really, I'm expecting a sentence or 2 at best, right? But if I made it a lot longer, I would want more, and they would, in some respects, be a cue to do that. Now, granted, not all students follow that, but it would give them a cue of what to do. In this preview, you do have the show and hide answers, so you can see what you have set if you want. Obviously, students don't have that. And when you're done looking at it, you can click Done. And then at this point, you can continue to author questions. Okay? That gives you, you can continue to build. You can reorder. If you want the essay to be the first question they see, you can, when you get the little crosshairs, click on it, drag it up, and then it's first. This is a little, it's not straightforward, but it's pretty good. All right, so I have my 3 questions. And let's say I'm pretty satisfied with my questions. And now I'm ready to go to step 3, which is setting the parameters of delivery.
Can I ask just one question?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
So the box to put correct answers is basically just your notes if you're making notes about the things you're going to look for in their answers.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's designed for, if you have a TA who's doing your correct, or for your own information as well. Yeah, that correct answer for the essay, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, students wouldn't see that. Unless, no, because that wouldn't be feedback, it would be just the answer test, so they wouldn't see that. Okay. So at this point, I'm satisfied, right? So what I can do is I can go into settings now. And what we're going to do under settings is we're going to go back to the same view where we gave it a title and we hit it. But now what we're going to do is we're going to set the parameters of delivery. And the 2 tabs we're going to focus on here are interaction, how students interact with the assessment, and review, what feedback do the students get once they're done with the assessment. So we'll click over to interaction. The first option is a date, right? You can set when this assessment is accessible to your students, when it's available for them to start taking it. Now, I'm going to step back to access real quick because this confuses some people, and rightly so. Under access, if you click advanced under the settings, the views, you have a set of dates here, right? Under view restrictions. So I have a set of dates here, and now I have a set of dates here, and what does that mean? The best way that I can explain it, this first set of dates is whether or not the link to start the exam is available. Remember, I had you go into the folder, I had you start the quiz or the exam, and so you clicked on exam 1. And once you got into exam 1, there was a button that said begin exam. This set of dates impacts the link that you clicked on, exam 1. This set of dates impacts the button once you click inside of it.
So they should be the same.
No.
Oh,
The reason why they have 2 separate dates is once you take the exam, the link to exam 1 is the only place you get feedback. So what you want to do is the access, depending on how you want to set it up, is okay, you can start the exam on this date, but the exam ends, in a day. But you keep the link open for as long as you want because that's where they come back to get feedback. Because while you got immediate feedback on your first one, you have the option to delay it. You have the option to not give feedback until you've corrected all the questions. And essay is not automatic. You have to go in and manually grade it, right? So if you set these dates at the same, well, you only have 2 hours to take the exam. They will never be able to access, if you set the access date and the interaction date the same, they never get feedback. And then you'd get emails. Well, how did I do? Well, what did I get wrong? Stuff like that. So that's why there's 2 different dates. Okay? I'm not going to monkey with either one of those, but just so that you're aware why there's 2 dates. The next one down is, go ahead.
So on the access, you want to make it like even a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could make it like a week or whatever, something that's reasonable. So the students have one time to get in and take the test, and then if you do have stuff that's going to be manually graded, give you time to grade it and give them time to kind of review that, the information that's provided for feedback.
And I'm sorry, the interaction is for the students.
What's that?
The interaction is the
Is
actual
yeah, how they would take the test.
how long would that be open? That window will be open.
Well, that.
How long I wanted it.
Yeah, the second date is how long that button is there for. Okay. Display settings. You had 2 different views with the 2 different exams. The first one was all at once. It was all on that one page. You just sort of went down and buzzed through it, and there you go. The next one, we talked about question sets as question set at a time. A block of questions would come up based on the question set. Once they're done, they click next. A next set of questions would come up. When they're done, they click next, and however many question sets they would move through. The third option is the second exam you took, 1 question at a time. And I don't know how many people move through, but you notice if you do a timed exam and you have it set to notify the student after 1 minute with a pop-up that they have 1 minute left, every time they go to a next question, the pop-up comes up. And the next question, the pop-up comes up, and it becomes annoying. Understand that some options can conflict with other options, right? Just be aware. For this set, we're just going to leave it all at once, but you have an idea of what we're talking about. When I talked about, that question titles at the top, it's for your reference. It's not the question text. You can show it to your students if you want under the option of show question titles, but you don't have to. I'm actually going to leave this up for display mode. Depending on how you have your question displayed, impacts the number of options you have in the next area, which is question set defaults. If you have everything displayed at once, you have the option to randomize the order that the questions are delivered, and then also randomize the order of the question answer options. In the second quiz that you took, right, they came in a different order, and the answers were in a different order, so you couldn't just sort of, kind of buzz through it, right? But let's go down to the last option here for display mode, questions at a time. Notice that in the set default area, these other options pop up. Okay? The next one is don't allow backtrack. In other words, once a student takes a question, answers a question, they move on and that's it. Right? They can't go back and correct an answer if they get it wrong. Display feedback after each question. Again, your option, if this is designed to, sort of be a study mechanism, after they answer the question, it'll pop up the feedback and say, you did this right or wrong. And correct answer must be selected before the next question is presented. They have to answer the right answer before they can move on, right? Now,
When you mean, they have to get it correct.
before they can move on.
Got it.
Correct. So those are the other options. Again, these are all options. The next one down is submission settings. When we talk about correct answer must be selected before next question is presented, well, that doesn't really correlate with this option, mastery settings. If they score above a 95, they can't take the exam again. Again, you have an option. How many times can they take this assessment, right? That's right down here. How many times you can allow them to take the assessment? Right now it's set to 1. But if you are designing this to be an instructional mechanism, right, it's not necessarily you're assessing their knowledge or helping them learn, You have multiple options, including unlimited, right? By default, it's set to 1, which is pretty standard. The next option down, called validation, it is confusing. What does this mean? It means if a student doesn't answer a question, what happens? What do you want the system to do? By default, it's allow, but issue warning, hey, you forgot to answer question 2, but I'm going to submit it. Next one is you don't allow it. You cannot submit this assessment unless you answer all the questions. But if you've above disabled backtracking, they can't possibly go back and answer the questions. So again, options can conflict, and you have to understand what those impacts are. And the next one is allow without warning. In other words, you're not going to tell them that they forgot to answer it, right? But that's what it means with validation. Save option. This can confuse some students because if you have the save option and in this quizzes that you guys took, it was there was one button for save and then one button for submit. The save button allows them, for example, my quizzes, I call them at-home quizzes. I allow my students like 24 hours to take their quiz. And so I say it's open book, open note. It's to assess whether or not you've paid attention in class and if you can process the information presented. And I say you can save, go look stuff up and come back and answer the questions if you want. So I have the same button there. I said, but don't think that if you click save, you're submitting the exam, because you're not. You have to click submit to submit it. So you can turn this off if you want, right? If you are giving a 2-hour exam, there's no point for them to save their stuff, assuming that they are going to take 2 hours or an hour or what have you. So you can turn that off. But this makes students feel safer that they can save because it's an online exam. But understand that if they save and they walk away and have a cup of coffee, go see a movie and stuff like that, and you're giving them a 2-hour exam, the clock continues to run. Just because they leave the system doesn't mean the clock stops. Again, it's important, especially if you have a timed exam, to inform your students of that, because they will be like, I don't understand. Like, I went to go see District 9, I came back, and what up, right? So that's another option. Make submissions anonymous. Interestingly enough, some people actually are interested in that because they don't want the student to feel that they are going to be impacted negatively. So it isn't really an assessment, it's just a temperature check of the class. Where is everybody at? But that's another option. The time settings, again, you experience two different types of exams. One that was no time limit, and that's by default unlimited. The next one you can limit to however many minutes you want. So if I make this a 90-minute exam, they have an hour and a half. The next option is if you do have time, do you want to issue a warning? You can issue a warning within 1 minute. You can issue a warning within 5 minutes or what have you. Now, again, remember that if you have it question at a time, every time they move it, that pop-up will come back. And especially if they're pressed for time, it will drive them up a wall. So be aware that those options can impact students.
So, Tobias, even if the exam is a 90-minute exam and you say you want a warning when there are 5 minutes left, that thing is going to pop up?
If you have it, if you
85 minutes and 80 minutes?
No. Only within the 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So when they
The
get
first
to 5 minutes, it's going to keep coming. Will it be 4 minutes after a minute has passed?
Once they click if, for example, you do a question set at a time. Let's say you have them do, here's a block of questions, and you move to another block of questions, you move to another block of questions. When that pop-up comes up, if they click it, then they can answer all those questions in the question set. However, if you have it one question after another question on a new page, each time they move to the next page, they'll get the pop-up again. So it's by moving from page to page that the pop-up resurfaces. The last option is automatically submit assessment when time expires. And again, assessment 2, that was the case. I wasn't finished, but it said, you're done, and it sent it in. You do not need this option, but it will mark, I believe, in red if a student went over time. So that's up to you.
What happens if up above here you set it for 2:30 to 3:30? So that's a different thing than setting the minutes down here.
Correct.
But that student doesn't get done by 3:30.
That is simply entry. That does not cut them off from, once they're in the exam, this has no impact. This is entry. Once you click the button, so if they get in before 3:30, it won't stop them. Once they're in, then the other timed elements take over? That's a good question. Yeah, so this is basically limiting entry.
Oh,
Okay? Yeah, that top part for delivery settings. Any other questions? Yeah.
Like the second exam, it was timed for how long, but it didn't give feedback as to
Correct.
how does that work?
That is a dicey proposition because if you are giving feedback every time, and the best way to give feedback is by question, and I strongly encourage you, if you do decide to use these options, to provide a low stakes exam or quiz, that what happens is a student answers, goes next, gets the feedback in the same sort of view, and then has to click next again to go to the next question. So if you're timing it, you're robbing them of time, right? I would not combine those two. If you want them to, and this is what I usually do, is I don't like to do a lot of this automated stuff. I do things manually. I say, look, the exam's going to be available from this time to this time. I uncheck it at one time, and then I check it again. Now, if they're in the exam, they have till the cows come home. But if they save and come back and they try and go in after the time expires, they can't get back in, right? Because I've cut off the access. So they have to complete it within this given time. If you want to do feedback, you know, I don't know, that's a good question. I wouldn't do that necessarily because then they will feel that they're losing time because they're reading your feedback and they have to click again and click again. And
There's no way to, once they're finished with that exam, that timed exam, to give them feedback?
yes, there is. If you want to do that, instead of within, and that's the next place we're going, the review. Within the exam, you can give feedback, but the next tab over, that's a good question, is your review. Once a student is done with the exam, what do they get to see? The first option you had was, I think I had it open, but I didn't provide any correct or incorrect feedback. Here, by default, it's set to full review. You can set the parameters. When does the review begin? All right. You can set it to number of days after submission. So you can make it available 2 days after they submit. Right. You can say review ends X number of days afterwards. And then the next one is restrict review until all questions are graded. In other words, if you have like half of it multiple choice and then the other half is short answer or essay, you don't want them to see the review until you've graded everything. The first exam you took, you got to see how you did, but that last one wasn't graded, right? Because the instructor didn't grade it. You can review that until all questions are graded. Now we've set it to full review. These are the different pieces that they get, all these check boxes down here, they get with the full review. I'm going to check that. Overall score, so they get to see what they got. Your feedback text, if you have it. The points awarded, so if they got it right or wrong, or partially right or what have you. Right or wrong, the answer key, so what was the right answer, right? The question text, so they can see what the question was. Grade or remarks, so if you are manually correcting this in an essay and you give feedback, they'll see that. The user response and points possible. Okay, now in your second one, I limited answer key and right and wrong, I think. I can't remember exactly. But you don't have to have all of these showing. You can uncheck what you want. I typically, I think I do undo answer key. That's what I do. But on my exams, I don't give feedback, which in theory I probably should. But those are the options there. So once that is done, you can, if you want, click Save. And now you have set the parameters of the delivery of your assessment. Click Save. Now, once you click Save, you're going to go back to this view, the authoring view. If you want to go out of this, you can click the little icon next to the name, and then you go back under Lessons. And that's for any piece of content. To go in, if you click on the title, you go back to this view. Unlike other pieces of content, you see what the student sees in many respects, and then you hit Settings to sort of, with assessments, it's different. You get the authoring view. If you want to see what students see, you have two choices. You can click Preview, like this, And again, by the parameters we set, again, next, it was question at a time. So I don't have all my questions again like last time, all right? That's one way. And then you can also do with the glasses the student preview. Now, if you submit, this will affect your item analysis afterwards. So when you talk about grading and stuff like that. Okay, so I've created this. We've authored. We set the parameters. The next step, what time is it? 9:47. The next step is actually going and grading, right? So let's go. I'm going to go to lessons again. And let's look at the exams you took. To grade, here's settings. That's where we authored the parameters. We can generate reports based on this, item analysis, stuff like that. But right now I'm going to go to utilities. Under utilities, I have an option and I can grade from here. One of the options is grade by question. Typically we grade each exam by person. So we grade Susie's and we grade Bill's and we grade John's. Well, this, what it does is, because it's online, you can grade by each question. It's not by person. So if I click this, it says I have one question left ungraded, which was the essay. I have 5 submissions. If I want, I just click 5. This is the question text. This is the answer. I put the grade in and any comments which would be given to them at feedback, right? Now, I can also, right now there's no, I don't know who wrote this, right? I can view question names. It's off by default, but I can view it if I want, and it pops up. Additionally, you can view submissions. You know, if you have more than 25 students, you have 27, set it to 50, and then all of them show up. Otherwise, you have to go to the next page. So I just type in a score. We'll go 2. Nice. I don't know. You know, 2. As you can see, I'm pretty easy with the grading here. And the onion, that's not a new source. You get nothing, right? I click continue. And now I return to this screen and it says, I don't have any ungraded submissions. Everything's been graded, right? But I didn't have to go from one person's exam to another person's exam, another person's exam. You can do that if you go and select, and we'll go under utilities again, view, grade, or delete submissions. So I can view this, I can grade, or I can delete the submission. So, and then I also have the grades because it automatically graded everybody's, right? The one that wasn't graded was the essay, all right? Now let's say that I've deployed an exam and I realize that I've made a mistake and I want to correct it. Don't, because you will jack up your exam. Wait until it's done. Wait until you've completed the exam and everybody's taken it and it's been closed. Because if you change the parameters of the exam while it's being deployed, you will screw up the exam for the students who've taken it and the students who have yet to take it. All right? Once you let it go, let it go. And when you're done and everybody's taken it, then you can come back and use the regrade option. All right? So I look at this and I realize that this is, I had the wrong answer, right? So I can change the points or correct answer. I can drop the question or I can give full credit. Change points or correct answer, right? If I go OK, I get this pop-up here, again, another pop-up, and I say the correct answer is not 1902. The correct answer is 1878. I click Save. And now, everybody who answered the correct answer will be given points, right? But wait until it's done. Wait until everybody's taken it. Because if you do it in the middle and you panic, you will mess things up. And you will actually get a series of pop-ups that say, warning, if you do this, bad things will happen. Are you sure you want to do it? And most people say, yes, I want to do it. And then they'll say, are you sure you want to do this? I'm the professor. I know better than you, computer man, right? You will screw things up, okay? Wait until it's done and then go and change the parameters. Again, if I do my item analysis and I realize everybody answered and it wasn't the right answer, but everybody answered the same incorrect answer, I might be like, yes, okay, well, let's see, events in chronological order, maybe I should regrade that and simply drop the question or give everybody full credit. So through your item analysis, you can evaluate what's going on. Again, you do the option. If you did put the incorrect answer in there, wait until it's all done, change the point value or the correct answer. Again, if it's a point value issue, change it afterwards, okay? And then if you want to, you can inform your students.
But they wouldn't have to, because this is all behind the scenes and they don't know.
Unless you have it all multiple
Unless you
choice.
gave them feedback.
Right, if you gave them feedback, or if it's all multiple choice and everything's already fed into the grade book, right? And then they're like, I got 98, oh man, oh I got 100, that stinks. Oh wait, right? Depending on what happens, right? So you can choose to communicate out to your students or not. That's why I think it's important to do a low stakes. And different question types have different peculiarities. Like multiple select, I hate multiple select, because the way it calculates the right answer is if I have 3 right answers, if you answer one of the wrong answers, it takes away points. So it's everything is plus and then incorrect is minus. Now it doesn't go below 0, but like for me, I'm like, wait a minute, what is, and so if I choose to use that option, I need to know how the computer thinks. So again, low stakes allows you to test the waters with your students, test the waters with you kind of getting the feedback. If we go under reports, let's do reports here, item analysis. And you do have the item analysis option, right? And so I can say point, sample size, mean. I don't know what that stuff means because I'm not a statistician. I can view, oh wait, it's this view over on the right. I can have a breakdown of the questions and how people answered. And this is interesting. That says is spread out, and that's that's interesting. That's good, and that kind of gives you can actually see something as opposed to everybody answering the same one. So you can really see how everything is spread out, right? So under the advanced options, I think with multiple select, there is one option to it's all or nothing, right? They actually have to get all of these right, or they get no points at all. That's one option, and I use that a lot because I don't like the gymnastics of trying to think, well, how do I calculate a half a point or what have you. But again, other people are more versed in using more advanced options as far as calculating exams and stuff like that. But that is the item analysis. Additionally, if we go, let's go back to, how do I get out of here? Oh dear. I think I'll just take the easy way out and click lessons. Go in here and go to reports. I can also do activity summary and activity detail. One of the options that used to be on by default under settings, and this is for all content across BlueLine, is under access, user tracking. In spite of the fact that it said it was disabled, it still tracked. Now it doesn't. So if you want to see information, you can track your students, right? We can turn that on, I'll click save. Not that it can go back and do it, but if I go to reports, activity summary, no reports. If I go detail, no details, because I didn't have that turned on. If you're given an online exam and you are concerned about students sharing information or cheating or what have you, if you have that tracking, it also provides the time they were in, and also IP address. What's interesting is I looked at this because I reuse this course all the time, and I had that on. And so everybody in this session was taking it. The IP address, even though everybody's at a different computer, was the same. I thought that was interesting. So I don't know what that means. So if all the students go to the library at the same time and take the exam, now they're doing it honestly, but they're at the same place, it showed the same IP address. But it might give you some information that you might use or not use, especially if people just score exactly the same, depending on how difficult your exam is. My quizzes for my students, it's not that difficult. And at this point in time, I'm not that worried because it is somewhat low stakes. If they're cheating, blah, 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 I say you can share your notes, you can ask questions to each other, because part of the way, for me, some students get it and other students don't when I lecture, but they will understand if somebody else explains it to them. So for me, I'm not that concerned. Now with the final exam, that's a different ball of wax, and I'll apply a different set of rules, but for my quizzes, I'm not as concerned. Are there any questions? Yes. Okay, I'll start back and then move up.
Does this grade automatically go into the grade book, or do you have to click something to make that happen?
Okay, that's an excellent question. I forgot to show that. With gradable items that can carry a grade, the Dropbox, an assessment, there's something else, but I can't remember. You have the option, if you want, under settings, to link this to the gradebook. If you already have the gradebook set up, and some of you have been to the gradebook session, you can simply go to the last tab, which is the assignment tab. And under gradebook settings here, you can set this as a gradebook, as an assignment in your gradebook. Notice I have some categories already set up: reading response category, project, final project. I have some categories set up. If I click new assignment, it asks me what category do I want this in. I don't know that I have an exams category, so in theory, if I click other, can I, do a new category? Exam. Click OK. I don't think this is a weighted gradebook, so I'll click OK. Now it's by default now in the exam category. Points possible. I can't remember how many points I made this, so I'm just going to say 10. Calculation type. What does this mean? First submission. We talked about this if you've been in the gradebook session. Since this is an online exam, it's feeding a score to the gradebook. Which score do you want to take? If, for example, since we only have our students in this scenario being able to take this once, it would be the first submission. When they click submit, that is a score that would go to the gradebook. However, if you allow them to make multiple attempts, do you want to do their average score on those multiple attempts, the maximum score, the highest they got, or the last submission? They took it so many times, the last one is the one that goes. Manual means that you are not taking anything that's in this one, that you're actually going to go in the gradebook under manage and type it in. Okay. We'll do first submission. Leave this as course default. This is what do students see? How does it displayed? Is it percentage or points, letter grade, or what have you? Leave it at course default because it will adopt the standard settings you've already established in the gradebook. And there's one place in the gradebook to change that under preferences. Now, when I click save, this is linked to the gradebook, and then it would be pulled and then deposited in the gradebook, which students would see. Nina, what was your question?
If you wanted to use this but as sort of like a template to actually do give out paper,
That's a good question.
and also to accumulate it for a final.
Well, you can, once you create a question, it's in the question bank, and you can simply copy that question and deposit it in your final. That's what I do with mine. So if I have a series of questions, and unfortunately, because I do all these demos, it's any question I've created is in my gradebook. So like all of these are in there, including the ones I actually want to look for. But yeah, once you've created it, there's that little checkbox that was above save, add to question bank. So you can then go and you can go into any assessment. Let's do that real quick. That's a good question. In fact, we'll answer this question answer both of your questions. So I'm going to click Add Question. And I can go copy question down here under Select Questions from Other Sources from an assessment. Now, it has me by default in American Medical Response because I'm enrolled in there. But I have all these other classes I'm in. So if I go, let's see, I don't know what's in there. I'm going to select quiz 7. I don't know what that is. Okay, here we go. I like this. How does a step better come to work with Madam Pace? From 6 characters in search of an author. I check that. I'll go down and say, okay. And now that question has been added. I authored it once, and now I can pull that into any exam that I want. Now, as I said before, when I add that, if I edit this, it edits the original. So there is an option. I got to find it. I can't remember. I found it before. I had a call on that. Let's do this again. Copy question from assessment. Let's find something that's relatively innocuous. Postmodern quiz, go. If I select define postmodernism, I think under here, configure copy options, the link at the bottom, automatically accept changes made to this question when master course changes. I'm going to undo that, and I click OK. And I think at this point now it's a standalone question. I will have to double check to make sure that's accurate, but that's something to be aware of. Your next question was, okay, if you want to do a print of this, there is no great way to do it. And the only way that I know how to do it is click preview and print the preview. This is somewhat cumbersome because when you just do the standard, if you don't change the font or anything, this print's kind of small. But that's the only way I know of.
From there, you can sort of copy and paste that
Yeah. Yeah, you can. There is another way, although I don't have time to show it, that you can author your questions in Word following a special format, and then en masse paste them into your into an assessment. If we go add question and we go copy and paste questions up here, replace this sample text with your questions at the top. It needs to be formatted exactly in this format. And when I say exactly, it's like a mathematical exam. If it's not right, it doesn't work. So if you try and copy and paste 100 questions and one's wrong, none of them go. So if you do this option, do chunks if you have a bunch to move in. Do chunks. All right? But that is there. In fact, I think my last quiz, I actually did that. Wrote my quizzes in Word and then made sure it was formatted properly and then dumped them in. And that was for my multiple choice stuff. So, are there any questions? It's after 10, so technically you are free to go.
Yeah, I was going to have a question.
Yeah.
But I don't want anybody else to have to stay for it.
I'll open the door so people feel free. How about that?
I'd like to give a quiz. I want to have some output that they look at, and then I want them to answer questions about what the output means. So I want to have a window or something where they see SPSS output, and then I want to ask them questions about what it means. Or like, let's for English, you'd have a little phrase, something you want them to see, and then
Okay.
questions about. Is there a way to show something like that?
Yes. If I understand what you're asking, you want something beyond just text, right?
Right.
So if I do, let's do essay, for example. Here's where I would normally type in my text under question text here, right? If I go type it in, blah. The option below this under here is HTML editor. So if I click HTML editor, it will load this rich text editor. So in theory, if you have something external to the quiz you want them to see, you can link to it. If you want to, you can embed an image into it. So it's basically like, it's kind of an HTML editor. It's really kind of rudimentary, but it gives you the option. If you want to, you can create special characters in here. So if I click that, I can insert equations. Oh, brother. Windows. So I can insert
In a
equation.
question set, there's probably something you could do to put like the output at the top of question set.
So yeah, at the question set, you can set parameters for that. So if you want sort of an introductory kind of element, you can do that.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good question.
Okay.
No problem. Any other questions? Again, this is sort of an intro. There are a lot of things you can do with this. The one thing I will show you, I almost forgot, is under settings, under, I believe, is it interaction? Where is that thing? Where am I? I've got to find it. You know, whenever I do this, I always forget like one thing. Oh, under advanced settings, there's an option for browser security. Okay, and what that does is by default it's set to none. It's just a regular browser. In other words, if I go to Wikipedia, I can copy and paste from Wikipedia into my answer if I want. There's no limit to that. There are two other settings. The next one is medium. And what that does is it disables the right click in print, etc. Right? So I can't copy and paste. Right. Now, if somebody wants to, you know, it's basically that setting is keeping honest people honest. Right? Making things more difficult. If somebody who knew what they were doing and was savvy could probably work around it. The next one is high, and it requires secure Angel browser. That is designed for a computer lab that have it installed. It's not an individual install somebody's laptop or blah, blah, blah. That is not really an option unless you have a computer lab on campus that has it built in. So if you're just sort of deploying it to your students as sort of a quiz or whatever, I believe one lab on campus is looking to install the secure browser, but I don't know that any have yet. So, but those are the options there, and that's under advanced. I knew it was there.
Oh, I can see what you access on.
That would be under access,
Advanced.
with advanced.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, Sue.
Which one do you usually do?
I do none.
Is that so that the students can print out?
For me, I'm not that worried about it, honestly. But if I was to think about it more, I would probably do medium to make things so that they have to, at least if they are going to.
Especially with essays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I had my essay component to my quiz as a separate Dropbox, so I made that sort of a different assignment, as it were, so it wasn't integrated. With my final though, one semester I actually got into a computer lab during the final time, so I had them taking it in a lab. The other time I actually ended up doing what you talked about, printing it out. So I assembled it in BlueLine and then printed it. It worked out okay. You know, it isn't perfect, but like you said, you could probably copy and paste it into something. So.
I love copy and paste.
Yeah, but I think like for my class, which is language, they would love to copy.
Thank you for trying TechSmith's Camtasia Relay.